When Cherry Blossoms Whisper. Volume 2, Summer's Fragile Heart. Chapter 1, Beachside Secrets. The sun was a blazing orb in the sky, casting its golden rays down on the coastal town where Haruto and the others had gathered. It was the first day of summer break and the air felt thick with the scent of salt and fresh ocean breeze. The student council had organized a beachside cleanup at a local shrine, and while most students were excited for the summer freedom ahead, Haruto couldn't help but feel a strange tension in the air, especially with Sakura by his side. The bus ride to the beach had been full of chatter and excitement, but Haruto had barely registered the conversation around him. His mind kept drifting to what Sakura had said to him under the cherry tree. Her words lingered in his thoughts like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Everything changes. It wasn't like her to open up, and Haruto had learned not to push her when she didn't want to talk. But something about the way she had said it, the vulnerability in her voice, made him think that the burden of her past was something far heavier than he had imagined. He didn't know what had happened to her father, but the thought that it might have something to do with the water, the same thing that made her so uneasy today, troubled him. As they reached the beach, the noise from the bus slowly faded into the sounds of the waves crashing against the shore. Sakura stood off to the side, her gaze fixed on the ocean, her body tense as if the sight of the water made her want to retreat. Haruto couldn't help but notice how distant she was. Despite the summer heat, Sakura had wrapped herself in a light cardigan, her arms crossed protectively over her chest. He saw her glance at the waves, her face tight with discomfort. She was trying to hide it, but Haruto could sense the unease rolling off her. "Are you okay?" Haruto asked softly, walking up beside her. She flinched slightly, turning to face him with a blank expression. "I'm fine, just not a fan of the ocean." Haruto raised an eyebrow, but before he could press further, Yui, the student council president, appeared, holding a clipboard and looking very official despite the casual beach setting. "All right, everyone," Yui called out, her usual manipulative charm replaced with an oddly serious tone. "We're here to clean up the shrine area, so grab a bucket and let's get to work." The students scattered, many of them eagerly picking up cleaning supplies, while others were distracted by the beach's beauty. Haruto noticed Sakura's eyes flickering nervously toward the shoreline. She seemed torn, her gaze shifting between the group and the ocean. "You don't have to do this if you don't want to," Haruto said gently, his eyes locked on hers. Sakura gave a quick shake of her head, trying to force a smile. "I'm fine. I'll help." He didn't press her further. She was determined to hide whatever pain she was carrying, but Haruto couldn't ignore the way she was gripping her cardigan, as though it was the only thing holding her together. The group made its way to the shrine after a few hours of beach cleanup. Haruto took a quiet moment to himself, noticing the way the sunlight shimmered off the water. His thoughts, though, were still occupied by Sakura. What was she running from? He wasn't sure, but he knew she wasn't the type to let things go easily. Suddenly, he heard a soft voice from behind him. "I need to step out for a moment," Sakura said, her tone distant, but not cold. Haruto turned to face her, noticing the way her body was tense, her eyes fixated on the water. "Sakura, I'll be back in a few minutes," she said firmly, but her voice wavered just enough for Haruto to sense the fear she was trying to hide. Without another word, she walked away, heading toward the cliffs at the edge of the beach. Haruto watched her retreating figure, torn between following her and respecting her space. He knew she wasn't ready to share whatever was haunting her, but part of him couldn't just stand by and let her deal with it alone. He decided to follow her. When Haruto reached the cliffs, he found Sakura standing near the edge, looking out at the ocean. The wind had picked up, rustling her hair and pulling at the sleeves of her cardigan. She was so focused on the horizon, her back to him, that she didn't hear him approach. "Sakura," Haruto called out softly, taking a step closer. She didn't respond, but her shoulders tensed. Haruto stopped a few feet behind her, unsure of what to say. The distance between them felt more significant than it ever had before. But still, he couldn't ignore the way his heart ached for her. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks below. Finally, Sakura spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared of the water. I always have been." Haruto blinked, surprised by the admission. "Scared of it? Why?" She hesitated, her fingers gripping the edge of the cliff as she stared out at the vast ocean. "When I was younger, my father drowned. I was too small to do anything. I just watched." The confession hit Haruto like a wave, and for a moment he couldn't speak. The weight of what she had just said hung heavily in the air. Sakura turned to face him, her eyes filled with a quiet sorrow that was hard to bear. I know I can't change the past, but every time I see the water, it feels like I'm still standing there, helpless. I don't know how to let go. Haruto's heart broke for her, but he knew this was a moment she had to face on her own. Still, he couldn't let her carry the pain alone. You don't have to face it alone, Sakura, he said softly, stepping closer. I'm here. Whenever you're ready. Her eyes searched his face, and for a fleeting moment, Haruto thought he saw a crack in her tough exterior. But then she blinked and the vulnerability vanished. Thanks, she murmured, turning back toward the water. But, not yet. Maybe someday. Haruto nodded, silently accepting her words, knowing that someday might come sooner than either of them realized. Thanks for watching our video. If you find this video interesting, then please subscribe our YouTube channel. If you're watching this video from TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, then follow our page for more contents like this.